that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
Out of over 229 episodes of out of the top 100 most watched uploads of all time, the year 2020 dominates, while the year 2023, which was the last full year of episodes, has most of its uploads in the bottom 55 least watched of all time. That brings the question, at what point did this online series between Trixie and Katya, produced by World of Wonder, peak in terms of viewership numbers? Furthermore, why is it that even though the year 2023 now has had over 3 full years to accumulate views, that it falls so far behind from the data of its predecessors? Well, let's analyze this, but before we start, let's talk about something that I think you'll really like. Have you ever wished you could make a bit of extra cash while doing something you already love, like playing video games on your phone? Well, free cash makes it super easy to do just that. With free cash, you can earn real money by doing simple tasks on your phone. Whether it's playing games, answering surveys, or completing easy offers, you already spend time on your phone. So why not make it work for you? Now, let me show you how this works. You get paid for playing games, and with in-app purchases, you get even more. So if you're already spending money on games, free cash gives you cash back. It's a nice little bonus. Plus, the more tasks you complete, the more rewards you unlock. It's a pretty satisfying feeling to see the cash add up. What really gets me is how many people are using free cash. Over 60 million people worldwide, with 250 million paid out to users so far. That's a lot of happy cash outs. And if you're wondering if this is legit, just check out the Trustpilot ratings. Free cash has great reviews. If you sign up through my link or the QR code on the screen, you'll get a $10 bonus just for completing your first offer. And it's risk-free. If you're ready to start earning while you play, sign up on freecash.com through the link in my description, or scan the QR code right here. So get started and grab that $10 bonus. Now, let's begin. As I gathered up all the data of each episode of it gave me the opportunity to be able to see a chronological story of the show. In 2016, they produced 37 episodes, the most World of Wonder was ever able to crank out in under a year. The total number of views for that year sits at 147 million, with the average being over 3,900,000 views per episode. Those that were around in 2016 know that off the bat, their online series was a hit with the fanbase, and clearly even beyond the drag algorithm altogether. In 2017, World of Wonder produced 32 episodes. The total number of views for 2017 was over 151 million and an average of 4,700,000 per episode. But then, of course, after 2 years of online success, Trixie and Katya's would suddenly be cancelled. Well, not entirely cancelled, but they sort of went on hiatus. And that's where Viceland comes in. Viceland was a TV network in the States that saw how much of a success the YouTube show of had become. So they offered Trixie and Katya the opportunity to take the show into TV. While the achievement in itself was a big deal, given that Trixie and Katya became the only queens aside from RuPaul to have their own network television show, the only problem was that the quote, Trixie and Katya show went on to be a huge flop for various reasons. The most obvious one being that the beauty of the show was accentuated by the fact that it was on the internet, specifically YouTube. It was easily accessible to everyone, and along with that, considering each episode tackled a different topic, it served as algorithmic bait that just wouldn't work for TV networks. That being said, while their Viceland stint only went on to last 1 season, it began airing in November 2017, with its final episode coming out in March 2018. They served a total of 14 episodes, 20 minutes each. Naturally, they would end up returning to World of Wonder. Now, just to remind you, episode 68, titled Goodbye Barbara, was uploaded on November 13th, 2017. And almost a whole year would pass by when on October 24th, 2018, they uploaded episode 69, titled Reunions. Now, given that this was very late in the year, 2018 would go on to only produce 10 episodes of The total views was over 55 million, with an average per episode of over 5 million. Needless to say, 2018 showed Trixie and Katya that in terms of long-term plans for their series, they would definitely never leave YouTube again. That brings us to 2019. World of Wonder produced 33 episodes, the second highest amount that they had done up until that point. Currently, the total number of views for this year sits at over 160 million, with an average of over 4,800,000 per episode. This takes us straight into the pandemic. In 2020, we got 31 new episodes of To this day, this is actually their most successful season ever in terms of stats. Their total number of views sits at over 173 million, and their average per episode is also the highest out of any other year, with over 5,500,000 per episode. That being said, even though this was technically their peak, the series still continued to be extremely successful in the years that followed. Let me explain. In 2021, they released 28 episodes with a total viewership of over 108 million and an average of over 3,800,000 per episode. Then in 2022, they produced 30 episodes, totaling at 108 million views and an average of 3 million per episode. We have to remember that numbers that cross into the millions contain a decent number of people that are casual viewers. This means that the people tuning in are of all different ages and demographics, some of which weren't necessarily fans of drag, but enjoyed the format that was presented with the chemistry of both Trixie and Katya. Then when we get to the year 2023, it goes on to be the last full year of They produced 27 episodes, totaled over 62 million views, and had an average of over 2,200,000 views per episode. Lastly, we have the year 2024, where only 3 episodes were released. It's important to note that these 3 episodes from 2024 were actually from 2023, and were sort of just leftovers that they released in early January. It's funny because while episode 229 went on to be the last episode ever uploaded on January 17th, 2024, they never actually said it was going to be the end of the series. Originally, in this last upload, they were already advertising the next season of that was set to release later on in 2024, but it never ended up happening. Before we get into the reason why they stopped making any more episodes though, now that we got to see the chronological story of their series, we can now deep dive into the actual fun data that came out of it. So looking at the actual data, one thing becomes obvious almost immediately. The pandemic era completely exploded the show's popularity. 2020 dominates the rankings. The most watched episode ever is titled Girl, You Gay, that sits at over 11.5 million views. Some other big hits are season 7 React, Straight People, Drama, and Fighting that all sit between roughly 8 to 10 million views. And honestly, it makes sense. The show peaked in both average viewership and total views overall in the year 2020, which makes sense given that everyone was sat at home. And then in second place we have 2018, and then in third place we have 2019. And in the lowest viewed years, we have 2023 directly followed by 2024. Out of over 229 total episodes of the top 102 most watched episodes are heavily concentrated in a surprising small number of years. 2020 dominates the ranking more than any other year, with 23 episodes appearing in the top 102 alone. Right behind it is 2019, followed by 2017 with 18, 2016 with 17, 2021 with 12, and 2018 with 9. That means nearly 1 out of every 4 episodes in the top 102 most watched of all time came from 2020 by itself. Now, compare that to the bottom 55 least watched episodes in the entire series. 2023 dominates the bottom 55 with 23 entries. After that comes 2022 with 11 entries, followed by 2016 with 6, 2019 with 4, 2021 with 4, 2024 with 3, and both 2017 and 2020 with only 2 entries each. What makes this especially interesting is that the weakest performing era is overwhelmingly concentrated in the final years of the show. And at the time this video is being made in 2026, even the last episodes have already had over 2 years to accumulate views. So this isn't simply a case of, quote, newer videos needing time to grow. These episodes have had time, which then raises a much bigger question about what actually happened to this series in its later years. One possibility is that the YouTube algorithm simply locked onto the 2016 to 2021 era of and kept recommending those episodes endlessly, creating a feedback loop where older classics continue to grow while newer uploads struggle to break through. Another possibility is that the audience simply connected less with the later era of the show itself. Another observation is that the bottom 55 is filled with sequel episodes, vague concepts, and especially the, quote, random episodes. Meanwhile, the most successful episodes in the series tend to have very blunt, emotionally loaded topics, such as drugs, drama, fighting, phones, food, and straight people. Speaking of topics, when it comes to their episodes, which ones were more successful than others? Like I said before, the random episodes consistently underperform compared to the more specific topics. Even though some fans enjoyed these blooper type editions, it's clear based on this data that the lowest watched of all time are mostly random episodes. Additionally, as I gathered data for this video, I realized just how often they tended to repeat topics. For example, from the very beginning, they would occasionally film some episodes, cut them in half, and release them as 2 separate episodes within 2 weeks. Or they went the other way, where they had a huge hit in the past and they wanted to revisit that topic and do a sequel to it. Yet the second part almost always tended to flop, which actually really surprised me, because I remember especially the Halloween special tended to be a very anticipated episode every year. But aside from the first 3 to 4 editions of the Halloween special, the last 3 massively underperformed. But let's keep in mind that even the lowest viewed still had over 1,600,000 views. There's also a huge trend around topics that cover relatability, like emotions, such as crying, shame, self-esteem, apologies, getting fired, and make loneliness work for you, which all rank very high. That's important because it shows people weren't just interested in their comedy, but also their perspective when it came to more serious topics. Which makes sense, because we already know that regardless of what they talk about, they are both gonna be very funny and a great energy to cheer up your day. Yet, there's something about seeing them tackle more, quote, serious topics that allow us to peek more into how they think as a relatable human being, which is a perfect mix for entertainment. As we close off this video, I wanted to touch on what's probably the biggest long-term trend, and that's the gradual decline after the 2020 peak. More recent episodes still perform well, usually landing somewhere between 2 to 4 million, but they rarely reach the insane heights of the pandemic era. Part of that is obviously the older videos having more time to accumulate views, but the difference is still big enough that it likely reflects a real shift in audience momentum too. This explains why a show that spanned from 2016 to 2024, that even the first couple years have huge numbers in each episode. Not only does this mean that newer fans went back to watch older content, but also that people are consistently finding and rewatching their show, which shouldn't really be a surprise, because they created this hugely committed fan base that provided them with a pretty solid amount of success year after year. Another theory for the drop in viewership is that from the year 2020 onward, Trixie really started to expand her brand. She now has multiple platforms. Yeah, she had her series with World of Wonder, but she also has her own YouTube channel, her Netflix React series, the Bald and the Beautiful podcast, and many other big media appearances. So fans were no longer restricted to just watching if they wanted to get their fix of Trixie and Katya. They now had so many other avenues to choose from, and this is truly why I think that A, the viewerships in recent years don't add up to the older ones, and B, that Trixie and Katya just don't see the point in returning to create the show again. That being said, what do you guys think? What are your favorite episodes of And do you secretly hope that Trixie and Katya will return at some point to make more episodes? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. If you sign up through my link or the QR code on the screen, you'll get a $10 bonus just for completing your first offer. And it's risk-free. If you're ready to start earning while you play, sign up on freecash.com through the link in my description, or scan the QR code right here. So get started and grab that $10 bonus. Now, let's begin.